This is Jalil Moon with another episode of the Sko Buffs podcast coming at you in
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, everybody. My name is Jalil Moon. I'll introduce these two in a second, but this is week one. We're kind of bringing a podcast to Sko Buffs Sports. Just talk about anything and everything Buffs related. I think it'll be a good opportunity to just have some casual conversations, and we're gonna get it up every week on Mondays. I think it'll be great. So I'll let you can start us off. Introduce yourself.
I'm Troy Finnegan. What's up, guys? I'm with Sko Buffs Sports and The Bold. I'm looking forward to bringing you Buff Sports content weekly on this podcast now.
And, hi, my name is Alex Roberts. I am new to the Sko Buffs Sports community and excited to get this thing going.
Yeah. Nice. I'm also, you reminded me of something. I'm also, something I should say is pretty excited. You guys will come to know me as the person who's always right.
Okay.
Just look forward to that. I'm really excited to see all the winning arguments, and everybody's just like, let's just hear what Jalil says. So
we'll have to see.
I see where we're going.
We'll see about that one.
So let's start with what's on everybody's minds. Buffs football. One of you guys can take it away. How do you feel about it, Troy?
Yeah, big 42-9 loss. Last week kind of got break from reality a little bit, but right back to the mat this week. Two of the biggest things that I really noticed, guys. One, the front seven that was so great against Cal, really just not getting it done. Again, the run defense was a concern all season. They were bad, especially early in the season. But against Cal, only giving up 1.6 yards per carry this week, back to 6.1. Oregon State ran for 270 yards total. Really just looking like the Buffs of the first 5 weeks. And only 1 sack, so not stopping the run, not getting any pressure on the quarterback. That's a bad recipe for playing defense.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to watch too much since I was broadcasting the hockey game on Saturday night. But, from what I can take away is that it was a lost cause from the get-go. That's kind of the biggest takeaway. And looking at the score sheet, Martinez had 3 rushing touchdowns and Stroud threw a pick 6. I don't know. Just bad overall.
I will say the game started. I was pretty excited. We got a fumble on the opening possession.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah.
I was pretty ecstatic. I thought it was going to be good. And then right after that, sorry guys, my mic died. But let's see if you guys can hear me a little. So we're week one. We got some technical difficulties, but it's just we started off the game great, and then the Buffs went back and regressed to who they are. Is kind of what it seems like.
I want to give Oregon State some credit too. They're not really talked about in the upper echelon of the Pac-12. Upper echelon of the Pac-12, you hear Oregon, you hear USC. This year, UCLA is back up there. Washington is really good this year.
Utah's always there.
Utah is always there. But Oregon State's a really good football team, 6-2, really tough place to play up in Corvallis. Almost beat USC up there earlier in the year, so it's not like the Buffs got walked over by some random team. And Oregon State's got a good football team.
They only lost to who? It was USC and UCLA, maybe?
Yeah.
Or it was one of the other top Pac-12 schools.
Yeah.
I forget who it is, but. So they're no scrubs for sure.
No, and this was what it was like last year. They went 8-4, and they went to a bowl game too. They were also not very talked about in the Pac-12 grand scheme of things last year too. And the Buffs beat them at home last year in a double overtime thriller. So Oregon State's no pushover in the Pac-12.
One other thing that I noticed from the game, Daniel Arias.
Oh my God!
I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet. He's still the most targeted receiver on the team. He still leads the team in receptions, in yards, but
drops.
Has he fallen out of favor? You mentioned the drops. The drops have been an issue all year. On Saturday in Corvallis, only 2 targets. He was out-targeted by Brady Russell. He was out-targeted by R.J. Sneed. He was out-targeted by Jordan Tyson, the freshman, who has looked awesome. Shout out Jordan Tyson. You've looked great. And he was out-targeted by Montana Lamonius Craig. Only 1 catch for 14 yards for Arias. Do you guys think that he is starting to, because of the drops maybe or whatever else, do you think he's starting to fall out of favor in the offense a little bit?
I think you have a point. I know watching through the first couple of games, home games that they've had, I've always looked at Arias when they targeted him as like, oh, Arias is the one guy on the team can catch, because so many of the other guys have been dropping balls. So Arias was like, to me, the one guy who could really catch the ball, but he's starting to also start dropping catches and passes, and Montana Lemoni's Craig has definitely stepped up in that department. And he started to become the reliable receiver that he's now living up to be, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't never had that much faith in Daniel Arias. I mean, I've been watching Daniel Arias be one of the third best receiver on the team for 4 years. No matter which receivers we get, he's never the best guy. I mean, you look at our best receiver right now, it's definitely Montana. You know, and like you said, Jordan Tyson's been crazy. He's been killing it. He might be, you know, he should be second string for our quarterback after that pass versus Cal. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy.
But I've never been big on Daniel Arias. I remember looking at the schedule and the roster at the beginning of the year saying we might go 0-12 just because I saw Daniel Arias at that number one receiver spot. And I mean, in terms of, you know, measurements, the dude should be great. I mean, he's got height, he's fast, he's tall, he can jump, but I just think it's something in the psyche. He's been here for 36 years and he's never been the number one guy in that receiver room. So I don't know what it is, but I personally have never been big on Arias. And I'm not surprised, but it is heartbreaking to see him start dropping catches and see how that becomes contagious, because it wasn't just him dropping catches versus Oregon State. So,
I mean, he had that great touchdown catch to start the game against Oregon State last year on the deep pass. So he's definitely not really fulfilled the requirements of being the number one receiver after the couple of losses in the transfer portal the team had last season. And I think Montana Lemoni's Craig's now stepping into that position now, going into the last month of the year.
Yeah, you look at Arias, he's gotten the opportunities. He's getting volume like a number one receiver should be, 36 targets on the year, but only a 50% catch rate. He's only got 18 catches, whether that's not getting open, whether that's dropping balls, most likely a combination of both of those things. Yeah, but it definitely looks like Jordan Tyson and Montana both really stepping up into those top receiver roles as the season progresses here.
Yeah. I agree. I remember watching the game going into the fourth quarter, and we were down 35-9 or something. And I remember tweeting something about, you know, maybe CU can right their wrongs about what happened 4 years ago here in Folsom Field. I was really hoping Buffs went down. Buffs were up 4 years ago, for those of you who don't know. Worst game I've ever seen.
It haunts us to this day.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought about stopping being a sports fan in general after watching that game. But Buffs went into the fourth quarter, up 31-10.
I think it was 31-3.
Was it 31-3?
I think it was.
31-3. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties with my mic, sabotaging me. But anyway, so the Buffs went into the fourth quarter. 31-3 or 31-10, I'm not sure. Had it like a 99.4 chance to win the game, and then ended up losing in overtime. And I was like, yeah, the Buffs can do that to can do that to Oregon State. We're gonna right the wrongs, and then the fourth quarter happened. So
Not quite.
Not quite. No. But going forward, what are you guys expecting out of the rest of the season?
Well, for me, now that they ended up actually winning a game against Cal, I could give or take if they end up winning another one. I think this upcoming game against ASU is the only game left where they could potentially squeak out a win, because after that it's Oregon, after that it's Washington and USC, and then you get Utah at home to end the year. So you're playing basically the top four teams of the conference after this week. You're not winning those 4 games. So if they don't win against ASU, they're going to go 1-11.
What do you think, Troy?
Sounds about right to me. I mean, you know, the way Arizona State doesn't look great, you know, it'll be the battle of the interim coaches this week. Yep. That'll be fun. Who's the best interim coach in the Pac-12?
They did beat Washington at home, though.
They did. No, hey, Arizona State has looked a lot better since Herm Edwards is gone.
Yeah, they just lost to Stanford at home, I think.
But, you know, you look after that, the way Oregon looked this weekend against UCLA, Oregon has been on a rampage since that Georgia debacle week 1. USC will definitely be ready to bounce back after their loss this last weekend. And then Washington and Utah, 2 more really strong Pac-12 opponents. So I agree with Alex. I really think if you want to see a Buffs win, it might be your last chance this weekend. Come out to Folsom Field.
Yeah, it's homecoming. Come on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the only chance the Buffs have at winning a game is ASU, and it's sad to be hopeful about your season ending 2-10 fall off.
That being the optimistic outcome.
If you guys were to guess, what the season is going to end up, would you take it at 1-11 or 2-10?
1-11.
1-11.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, with the horrible start they had the first 3 weeks, I mean, getting a win against Cal is a miracle because they did not do themselves many favors with the teams that they scheduled against because TCU is now, what, are they in the top 10 right now?
TCU is in the top 10.
Yeah, they're in the top 10 now. UCLA was in the top 10 this past week. So,
Oregon and USC are both up in the top 10 now, too.
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, no, 1-11. I wish I could take a hot take here and go 2-10 just to be different, but I don't see it happen. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say 2-10.
I was going to say,
ASU.
no take is too hot for Jaleel.
We're going 2-10. Here's my reasoning. ASU has nothing to fight for anymore. They just came off a loss to Stanford, and if you can lose to Stanford, you can lose to Sanford. That's what I'm going to say about this. So.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
I'm going Buffs 2-10 on the rest of the season. Tomorrow is, the season closer for me. It might be the last game I watch for the season, but I think it's going to happen.
Hey, just remember, there's no take too hot for Jaleel.
Hey, let me tell you, man. I'm going for it. All right. One thing we should talk about is Sanford. Do you guys like him for the rest of the season, or what do you think his position is going to look like next year?
I think he did a good job rallying the troops because, as we mentioned in the Carl Durrell firing bit during that live show, Sanford's bringing a lot more emotion than Carl Durrell does, and I think the team is showing more emotion, and the team overall is just more energetic. And I think that's good for the program, especially when you're in this rough of a position as they are. So I think he's good for an interim. I don't know if I would hire him to be the next head coach. I think if he beats Arizona State and if he somehow pulls off an upset in one of those last 4 games, then maybe I consider it.
Mike Sanford is probably doomed, and I say that sadly because I like Mike Sanford, and I think he's done a really great job considering what he was given. But people asked me after the Cal win, what does this mean for Mike Sanford? I said nothing. People asked me after this week, what does this loss mean for Mike Sanford? And I also said nothing. He was kind of doomed from the start here, and he's done a really great job bringing energy back to the team. His energy is great. It's contagious. You see it all over social media. Quite the opposite of what Carl Durrell was giving us earlier in the season. But as I wrote in my coaching candidates article, shameless plug, theboldcu.com.
Check it out.
Read it.
Yeah.
I wrote that he would probably need 3 to 4 wins to get consideration for the job. And he got the one against Cal. You lose to Oregon State. You get the Arizona State game, which could be a win. But the Buffs are still 2 touchdown underdogs. And then, as we mentioned earlier, you're looking at a real long shot to find another win on that schedule. And I just don't think that 2-10 will get him consideration for the job when there's going to be bigger names out there. What do you think?
It's hard to know until you see what the rest of the pool looks like. Because, if we're going and hiring another wide receivers coach from some below average NFL team, I'll take Sanford. But it's unfortunate because I remember I liked Mel and I missed Mel. And then when they hired Durrell, I didn't really like Durrell from the beginning, and it kind of showed. And just from a human standpoint, I love Sanford. I think he's a great guy. I've seen him in press conferences. He speaks well. He's energetic. He's player driven, and he's a good guy. My girlfriend is on the cheer team, and she traveled with the football team to go to Oregon State this last week, and she was telling me about how when everybody got off, he was staying behind and he was picking up trash on the plane and stuff like that, and that's not expected from him, but that's just what he seems like. He's that kind of guy to me. So I would love that, but like you said, 2 wins might not buy you that contract, but I just don't know who they're going to hire that can do so much better. Especially if they get a big name guy, I'd love to take the risk, but I'm tired of, 5 different head coaches or whatever in the last few years, whether it's interim or whatever. Tired of the turnover. If Sanford could beat Arizona State and could get another win, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see the athletic department give him another chance, mostly because I think he could recruit if he needed to, and I think that's the most important part. Because you can only coach up a bad team so much. At the end of the day, the CU Buffs team is not good. You could put players in the right place, but if Arias is dropping 2 balls a game, or you have 2 drops on 3rd and 4th down, in a super serious possession, that's not Sanford's fault. So if we could get a good team, I think he could do good. Will he ever get that chance? I don't think so, but I'd like to see it. He's got my vote.
Would you think he would work better as a head coach or go back to his role as offensive coordinator?
I don't know. I think head coach, because it allows him that platform to showcase his energy and, hype up the team and stuff like he has, and I think that the players respond to him very well.
Okay.
So I'd like to see him as head coach. Obviously, my answer could change by the end of the season. I've only seen him for 2 games. But I think the biggest thing that we have to keep in mind when we look at the fact that he might lose majority of the rest of the games is we never were expecting anyone to win those games in the first place, which I don't think, is going to really be considered. But
Vince Lombardi's not winning those games, folks.
Yeah.
That's really the biggest thing, though. You hit on it. Sanford's done a really good job with the culture and stuff like that and the energy, but you know what they say. It's not about X's and O's. It's about Jimmys and Joes. He's going to have – if he's going to be the head coach, he's going to have to recruit, and he's going to have to recruit at a level that's going to be able to compete in the Power 5 with a Pac-12 that has been a real easy punching bag for the last 4 or 5 years since Washington was in the playoff. But the Pac-12 is having a great year this year.
I agree. I mean, there are 5 really good teams in this conference.
Definitely.
USC, UCLA has made a name for themselves. Oregon's been good pretty much every year. They took that awful loss to Georgia, but they have been out with a vengeance since then. You have Washington, who surprised everyone beating Michigan State. And then you have Utah, who has also started out the rankings at number 7 and the reigning
Oregon
champs.
State too.
Yeah. Oregon State's no pushover, too.
UCLA will be interesting to see how they progress in the next couple of years once Dorian Thompson-Robinson completes his 40-year tenure as the quarterback at UCLA.
How many years does he have?
It can't be many.
That's right,
It can't be many.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
I like him. Another person who might be coming out of CU, Rick George. Have you guys heard the rumor?
Yeah,
Ooh.
some shaky rumors.
Yeah.
A little. Not the most reliable rumors I've ever heard.
True.
Yeah.
But there's also,
Unsurprising though.
yeah.
Yeah.
The only person I've seen really, really vouch for Brian. Brian not broke the news, but Brian responded to some of the allegations saying that, from what his sources are, it's not true. And I'm pretty sure his sources are the school. So.
Which is likely, yeah.
Yeah.
The school's not going to rat Rick out.
No.
But I don't know. Do I believe that he interviewed? I think Auburn was the school that was directly tied. It said he interviewed with Auburn. Do I believe that? I don't know. That was kind of a weird rumor. Do I believe, though, that he would consider leaving? Yes. I think that he has kind of made a mess with the football program that it looks so far away from being able to be cleaned up right now. And I kind of don't blame him. Who would want to stick around if you know you're at least probably 2 head coaches and probably 5 years away from really competing at the top of the conference?
I hope he stays. I think Rick George is a good athletic director.
Why do you say that? I'm curious.
Just because I think, some of the other programs have seen success. I think he does a good job. I know he implements and had a big deal there's a student Buffs program called Boulder Buffs that emphasizes mental health within the student athletes. And I know once a week he hosts meetings with all the student athletes where they can come in and ask some questions, voice concerns, stuff like that. So in terms of stuff like that, I think he's a good person. I think he's a good athletic director. And the problem is his biggest hiccup was football. And even that is a little bit not his fault because I think he had the answer in Mel Tucker. the Buffs had the best recruiting class that year with Mel Tucker. That I think it was that 2018 recruiting class that they've seen in years. I mean, we had guys like Brennan Rice and all those people come in, and then Midnight Mel. He left us in the middle of the night, and I don't think that's necessarily Rick George's fault. You can argue it is because pay the man, I guess, because you paid Carl Doral more than you were paying Mel Tucker, but. I think if Mel stayed, we'd be in a completely different position right now. And I don't know how much of that you can put on Rick.
I'll counter that because Rick George put the program, and I totally agree with you that Rick George has done a great job outside of the football program. But Rick George also, he put the football program in a position where something like Mel Tucker leaving is almost to be expected, though, because CU football is not a destination program right now. Like I compare it to kind of what Lance Leipold is doing at Kansas right now. Kansas was a couple years ago where CU is now. Kansas went years without winning a game in the Big 12. Lance Leipold had them in the top 25 briefly, which he lost his quarterback. And that's brutal, and Kansas is probably going to have a pretty rough finish to the season. But Lance Leipold is gone, most likely, because in the next 2 years, because of the job he's done there, getting Kansas from a basement team to a competitive team. And then Kansas will need another coach to get from a competitive team up into we're competing in the Big 12. We're playing with Oklahoma. We're playing with Texas. That's where CU's at. We could hire one guy like Mel Tucker, but the second he does a good enough job to get CU out of the basement, he's going to get a better job. We're 2 coaches away from being really good, and part of that is where the football program has gone under Rick George.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone job.
Absolutely. No question.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how the framework of college football has gone in the past, I guess, decade, 2 decades, where, and this isn't just a Colorado thing. Colorado is an example of a Power 5 school that suffers from this, but there are countless of Group of 5 schools that had the same exact thing. Like UTSA had a near undefeated season last year. Mm-hmm. I think I remember seeing that coach is actually signed for quite a while, so they'll be good for a while. But the second that contract's up, he's getting a good job somewhere else in the Power 5. And so you got to find a guy who can get you to relevance, and then, yeah, of course, hire the next guy that can get you up to the conference competing level.
Mm-hmm. You know what we need? We need a Tad Boyle for our football team.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Speaking of Tad Boyle, let's
Roll
talk about some
Tad.
basketball.
Yes.
Great segue.
Yeah.
Great
What
segue.
a segue.
That's good stuff.
So, Buffs have a game this Friday.
A game.
Exhibition game.
I think it's Sunday.
Game.
Sunday.
Is it Sunday? It's the 30th.
30th.
31st
Sunday.
is Monday. So
A game
yeah, a game.
against a team. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Nebraska, man. We'll see.
against those
So
Huskers.
I haven't done a lot of looking at what Nebraska looks like this year. But the Buffs,
It's not great.
well, that's good because I think the Buffs look good. I'm excited about this Buffs team. What do you guys think? What are your early viewings on the Buffs?
I don't know. It's very interesting because, the team finished 4th in the Pac-12 last year, won a conference tournament game, bowed out against Arizona after they upset them in Boulder, couldn't get the neutral site win. They got a home game in the NIT, couldn't finish against St. Bonaventure, who started the season in the top 25, by the way.
They were also playing guys that were like 30 years old, it felt like.
That's true. But I think,
Love the Bonnies, though.
especially when you compare it to our football team, this is going to be miles better. It's going to be so much better.
Well, I hope so.
We're going to win more than 2 games.
Can't be any worse.
Dude, if the basketball team is as bad as the football team.
Oh my God. I mean, we won't. I don't know if we're going to see a drop off like Oregon State had last year, going to the Elite 8 to winning 3 games all year last year and finishing the bottom of the conference, 1 conference win. So we can rest assured that we're not going to have that big of a fallout. But I think they will have a favorable first matchup against UC Riverside.
I'm excited for Buffs basketball this year. I'm pumped up. I really am excited for Sunday because I think that the Buffs have a lot of depth, and it's a lot of depth that you probably wouldn't get to see in a regular season where the rotation is cut down to 9 or 10 men. I'm hoping that in an exhibition we'll get to see 12 guys out there. We'll get to see 13 guys out there because we've got a lot of people from all over the place that I think can really play. My other thing is, because this has been a trend for Buffs basketball, I think that we should be able to really take care of business on Sunday. I don't think that it should be that close. Nebraska's not very good. They were 10-22 last year. They lost Bryce McGowens to the NBA, who was one of their 2 really primary scorers. They bring back a decent amount of size, but the talent just isn't there. Fred Hoiberg does not have the same magic that he had at Iowa State. He looks a lot more like Chicago Bulls Fred Hoiberg than he does Iowa State Fred Hoiberg. So I'm hoping that the Buffs can come out and put together a decisive performance. Although I understand that obviously in an exhibition, there's going to be some things to tie up. But I think that we are the better team, and I am hoping to really see that on Sunday because Buffs teams in the past have tended to have letdowns against lesser competition.
All right, let me see. Which camera are we on? Right, this one right there. Let me look in this camera. I'll look. Yeah, this camera right here. I'll look.
Okay.
You can zoom. I'll zoom in. Let me tell you, the Buffs are going to finish top 3 in the Pac-12. Probably number 2. Going to finish top 3 in the Pac-12 this year. Yeah, I'm going crazy. And they're going to the Sweet 16. I'm calling it. Whoa! Someone in the Pac has got to do it. Nobody thought Oregon State was going to do it last year. Why can't it be us? I'm telling you. Look.
Someone cool this man off.
Season 13 or something for Tad? 13th season for Tad Boyle. It's happening. I don't see why not. Things are looking scary in Boulder, and no scarier year than 13. So, Pac-12, top 3 contender. They're on the podium this year, and we're going to the Sweet 16. You heard it here first. Book it.
Speaking of the Pac-12, what do we think that the landscape of the Pac-12 is going to look like? So you say top 3.
Who are the 2 teams that are going to be better than Colorado this year?
Arizona is going to be up there.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I'd love to see UCLA return to glory, but also they're leaving the Pac-12 soon, so I don't really care about them that much.
UCLA is a title contender, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So UCLA, Arizona, and then everybody else is just looking at the bus from behind.
Really?
Wow.
I think Oregon is going to be. I think Oregon's going to be really good.
I think Oregon's going to be good too.
Will Richardson is back for his whatever year as the point guard at Oregon. It's been a really long time. They've got N'Faly Dante back in the front court. They're bringing back a lot of experience, and I think that the 3 best coaches in the Pac-12 right now are Mick Cronin, Dana Altman, and Tad Boyle. And so you look at Oregon. Oregon's teams are always known for coming together at the right time. They play their best basketball in February and March. I think that team is going to be up there. The big edge that they have over the Buffs, and not that it's an edge that we cannot overcome, but they are very experienced, both as a program playing into March in a way that the Buffs are not, and the guys that they're going to be putting on the floor this year have a lot more playing experience at the D1 level than this young Colorado team that's going to be out there.
You think Oregon's going to be 4th. So if, according to your predictions, Arizona, UCLA, Colorado get buys, who's going to be that 4th team? Is it Oregon?
Yeah, I'll throw Oregon in there. You
throw Oregon?
Convinced me. That's a good argument. Troy convinced me. So.
All right.
So I got some arguments too now.
Yeah.
Huh?
No,
okay.
I know it's a little bit of a hot take. Would I be surprised if the Buffs were a little bit closer to the middle of the road in the Pac-12? No. Do I think they're going to be? No. They're going to be top 3. I'm calling it. It's going to happen. I don't see why not. This could be the year. I'm not saying they're, going on some crazy, but it's March. We're not talking about college football here. If we can make it to the tournament, I don't see why not.
Anything can happen. What about this, Alex? Sports Illustrated had the Buffs ranked 8th in their preseason Pac-12 rankings.
Really?
Yeah.
8th?
That's exactly what I said.
That seems a little low. I was kind of more. There was a push at the end of the last year that was around. They were looking for 4th. There were a couple teams fighting for that 4th spot, and Colorado was able to get it. Do I think that they're going to be able to pull that out again? I don't know. I think they could go up to number 4 again in the conference, but I think that 5 or 6, maybe 7 if they have a couple bad games is more reasonable? Probably.
Maybe it always feels like that 3 through 7 in the Pac-12 is just a bloodbath, you know?
Yeah.
One road slip up at Cal in January, and boom, that could be the difference between getting that double bye in the Pac-12 tournament, and boom, you're playing on Wednesday night.
Yep.
You talked about how the Buffs might not have that experience. They're young. They've got 8 freshmen, whether it's redshirt or true, 2 grad transfers, so that's not young, but that's new. And they lost some of their most experienced guys. I mean, the oldest guys on the team that were on the roster last year, we got the juniors, who I'm really excited about, especially Tristan De La Silva. But we lost Jabari in the draft. They look good. He looks good with the Trailblazers. If I might be wrong, but I think they won the summer league. The Trailblazers did.
Jabari
he looks really good.
Jabari looks really good. And then lost Evan Batty, mayor of Boulder. That's always going to be a big hit when you lose a guy who's been on your team for 5 years. But I think they look good. We got 2 grad transfers from Ivy Leagues.
Ivies, yep.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
big Ivy League guys.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. You got Jalen Gibbett. He's a 6'5" guard. You got Ethan Wright, 6'3" guard, 40% from the 3.
Ethan Wright can shoot
Buffs
the rock,
need
man.
Yeah, Buffs,
Ethan Wright can
Buffs
shoot
need
the
a shooter.
rock.
And then I also like Javon Hadley. I don't know.
I agree.
I like him a lot and I think he's a big help in the locker room. I think he's going to be that guy that replaces Evan Batty in terms of that vocal leader kind of guy. And he seems really good. He seems like a leader. He looks like he can play. We're going to need some of those rebounds. He's a big guy. I don't know if you've seen him on campus, but he's a big guy. Yeah. And then, so I think we'll look good. We don't have any seniors, but we got Tristan, we got Luke, and we got Neek. We lost Bartholomew to Oregon. Who else did we lose?
Those were the
Eli
3
Parquet.
big guys.
Parquet, yeah, he went to
Parquet,
UNLV, right? But I think they're going to be good. They're energized. They're young. We got KJ Simpson, finished, first team all freshman last year. I think that, we just have a lot of guys who are going to come in, and they're going to come in hungry, and they're tired of the mediocrity. They don't want to go to the NIT. That stung last year.
Yeah. I'm excited about this team because, admittedly, I have a type on the basketball court. I love big, long, athletic wings that can do a lot of things. And the Buffs, while they may not be experienced, they definitely have big, long, athletic wings that can do a lot of things. You've seen the flashes from Tristan Da Silva the last couple of years, what he can do on both ends of the floor. Looking for him this year, too, to take a step offensively, maybe become a little bit more of a creator in the absence of some of those guards that you mentioned that departed. And obviously a big chunk of the offense was being used by Jabari and Evan, rightfully so. But we're going to need some of these guys to step up and be creators. We also have Neek Clifford, who maybe my favorite thing in the world to watch is to watch Neek Clifford play defense. Because
Dude's locked in. I don't know if you ever see his eyes.
Locks people down. Then you get
fantastic.
Luke on the wing. He's a shooter. He's 6'8". He helps inside, outside. Maybe he could take a little bit of a jump on the defensive end this year. The guy that I'm really looking for is Quincy Allen. Hurt last year, missed the year.
Yeah.
I was at Media Day a couple weeks ago. Quincy Allen is the best athlete on the team.
Yeah. Can you ever see that dude jump?
Get Quincy Allen on a 1-on-0 fast break and just get ready for the show because
Buddy can jump out of the gym.
Yes, he can.
Quincy Allen is nasty, man. Yeah, I'm excited for him. And Tad Boyle said Tristan Da Silva. He's expecting him to be, not expecting, but he sees him as he could be first team All Pac-12. That's Tad Boyle's words. So
I'm really excited for Neek Clifford. I know it seemed like he started having more of a background role at the start of last year, but he really came into his own by the end of the year, and I'm really looking forward to him taking the next step to becoming one of the big stars on this team.
All right, so I got a question. Oh, do you have something?
I was just going to say, who do you guys think is the X factor for this Buffs team? If they want to get to where they want to be and to where Jaleel thinks they will be,
Yeah.
who do you think is going to have to be the big X factor in that mix?
Well, I mean, you guys mentioned that KJ Simpson was first team All-Freshman. I think if he can take that step and be the big star and the number one guy on the team, I think that the team can rally around him. We have the pieces that can be very good support because there needs to be a lot more support in college basketball than the NBA.
Julio?
It's hard to say one. I think from numbers standpoint, I think it's going to be Tristan. He's going to be the best player on the team. But from a rally around standpoint, I think it's going to be Javon Hadley. I mean, he's new to the team, but the team seems to have grown a liking to him. They like him. They're close. And he's just that vocal leader guy. I think he's going to be, the guy that people look to in the last couple of seconds to hype him up, to be that leader on the floor and in the locker room. So that's mine. What do you think?
I think it's the biggest factor for the Buffs, I think, is going to be a guy that flies a little bit under the radar. I think it's going to be Lawson Lovering. Missed the end of the season last year due to injury. He's a sophomore. He's from Wyoming. But in this mix of guards and wings, the Buffs, they're a little small this year. Lawson Lovering is going to be starting. He's going to be man in the middle in that 5 spot. He put on some weight. Tad Boyle raved about him at Media Day. But when you look at what are teams going to do to attack this Buffs team with all of the versatility on the edge, it's going to be trying to put Lawson Lovering in conflict. Can Lawson Lovering step out on ball screens? Can he switch? Can he contain guards off the dribble? Can he be a force on the glass? Can he protect the rim? And then on offense, he doesn't have to be Dirk Nowitzki, but can he get us some extra possessions on the offense? Can he finish around the rim? Can he maybe get us some post-up touches, some buckets? Can he be good as a screener and a roller for KJ Simpson, who looked great with a roller like Jabari last year? Can Lawson be that guy? I think if Lawson adds that element of size and keeps the theme of versatility at his size, 7'1", I think the Buffs could really be a tough out.
Nice, I like that answer. All right, so before we get out of here, one last question. Is CU now a basketball school?
Good question.
Well, they're not a football school.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're not. That is for sure. That is true. I think right now, yes. Especially since, the football team they had the one-off year where they played very well in 2016, but outside of that, they have played very mediocre to downright awful like this year. And the basketball team has been more consistent. They went to the NCAA tournament in 2020, won a game, and I think that with the recruiting restrictions that CU has for football, it has hampered their ability to retain their prowess as a football school. And I think that because of this and the basketball program consistently being a bit more consistent than the football team, I think, yes, CU is a basketball school.
Yeah, I think CU's still a football school. If you look at it, you look at the fans. The fans show up in numbers for CU football every single year. And I think, the fans care a little bit more about football. But like you said, if things continue to go the way that they are going, and if the administration doesn't make any changes, I could see it quickly becoming a basketball school, which is a shame to say considering how good Colorado's been in the past. It sucks to see them where they're at now, but if they don't change anything, I don't see how we ever get back.
The first thing I thought when you asked that question was, who are the most recent, when you think of CU sports, and who are the real pillars and the faces of CU sports? All time, you're thinking Eric Bieniemy, you're thinking Rashawn Salam, you're thinking guys like Cordell Stewart, and then you think a guy like Chauncey Billups on the basketball side. But in recent years, who would be the first couple names that would come to your mind? It would be Evan Batty, basketball.
Philip Lindsay.
McKinley Wright,
Yep.
basketball. Philip Lindsay would be in there. But then you would get Spencer Dinwiddie, basketball. You would get a guy like Askia Booker, basketball. All of these guys that are coming through as the biggest athletes, the most successful athletes at CU, a lot of them are now basketball players when they used to be football players. And I think that is sort of symbolic of the transition that is happening. As you said, it's kind of trending towards becoming a basketball school, even if you still want to call it a football school for now. I think that is symbolic of the trend that is happening. It's becoming a basketball school if it isn't already.
Nice, yeah, I agree. All right, well, that is episode 1 for the Sko Buffs podcast. Follow us on all of our social medias, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Come back next week.
Yeah,
Yes.
you should.